in this video, placement may have been a better word to use than hypothesis, so bear that in mind.
Well, hello there. So today we're going to talk about squamata and some of the groups in it. So lizards, snakes, and these reptiles called worm lizards or amphisbaenians belong to the group Squamata, and Squamata is an order. And so Tuataras, which can at least like superficially look a lot like lizards, don't belong to Squamata. They instead belong to a separate order called Rhynchocephalia. But Squamata and Rhynchocephalia are thought to be quite closely related, and they make up the group of living reptiles called Lepidosauria. So, yeah, they make up the group that living reptiles that some living reptiles belong to called Lepidosauria. So in Squamata, you have three groups. You can have Gekkota, which is what the geckos and the sort of limbless geckos belong to. And when I say limbless geckos, the limbless geckos can still have, like, they can get called flap-footed lizards, so they can still have some sort of like remnants of the hind limbs, and they can develop in like one limbless gecko called Delma can develop 4 limb buds before it's been born. So that's interesting. But anyway, so you have like Gekkota, so you have the geckos, you have Dibamidae, which are these like lizards which appear limbless. Well, they appear to lack limbs. And then you have Unidentata, which is all the other squamates. So like snakes are thought to belong to Unidentata. Amphisbaenians are thought to belong to Unidentata. And then loads of other, and like all the other lizards apart from dibamids, like all the other living lizards apart from dibamids and geckos belong to Unidentata. So you have some features. Well, so basically you have like 3. Well, to start off with, some lizards which belong to the clade, which belong to the group Iguania, used to be thought to be the most, like, the first squamates to split from other ones, which is interesting. But now, or like recently, you have like different hypotheses of like the tree of squamates. So you can have one where, so Dibamidae may have been the first squamates to split from the others, and so this would mean geckos and the Unidentata are more closely related to each other than Dibamidae. And so what's interesting is geckos and Unidentatans, like the word, whichever word you'd use for describing members of Unidentata, we'll just say Unidentatans for now. But geckos and Unidentatans, they can have a bifurcated tongue. So this is just sort of like they can either have a notched tongue which is a bit like a forked tongue, except it doesn't go as deeply, like it's not So it's maybe like a little split in the tongue, but maybe not as much as a forked tongue, or they can have a forked tongue, like in the case of like monitor lizards or snakes, or like tegus and stuff like that. So what's interesting is members of Dibamidae can like not have like a bifurcated tongue, whereas like geckos, Gekkota plus Unidentata can have a bifurcated tongue, and so they can be, and so the clade bifurcata. So like a clade is just like a group of an ancestor and all its descendants. So geckos and Unidentatans can belong to a proposed clade bifurcata, which Dibamidae like fall outside of. They're not part of it. But what's interesting is another hypothesis, and like even in 2020, I think one like paper said that found like support for it. I think so. Yeah, so in 2020, this paper found support for a different hypothesis, which is that Dibamidae and Gekkota are more related to each other than they are to like the other squamates, the Unidentatans. So that's interesting, and like you do have features in common. Like geckos and Dibamids can have features in common. Well, they can have like so Dibamids and geckotans can have 2 egg teeth, whereas Unidentatans can have 1 egg tooth. So that's interesting. And what's also interesting is some geckos can lay hard-shelled, like calcareous eggs, but so like containing like a lot of more calcium than some other like eggs. But this is just some geckos that can lay more like calcium in their eggs. But what's interesting is that Dibamids can also have calcareous eggs. So, but I've read that calcareous eggs are a derived feature of some geckos, which means may have evolved after the split from Dibamids. So, but yeah, I don't know what the case is with that. But anyway, so Dibamids can have calcareous eggs, and some geckos can have calcareous eggs. And yeah, which is interesting. And then what I forgot, what I'm not sure I mentioned, is when we were talking about like bifurcata, that sort of hypothesis, chameleons can like not have bifurcated tongues, which is interesting. Yeah, and like chameleons can have like, well, yeah, they can have like quite like specialized tongues, I suppose. Yeah, and then the third hypothesis is that, which I've seen, is that Dibamids are actually more related to like the Unidentata sort of thing than they are to, well, like the other squamates. So like Dibamidae, one hypothesis is that Dibamidae is more related to other squamates than they are to geckos, which is like quite interesting. Yeah, so I think I've said everything. So Dibamidae tongue can be not bifurcated. They can have 2 egg teeth. And they can have calcareous eggs. And yeah, like so Tuataras, their tongues can like not be notched, which is interesting. So it's sort of like the notched tongue is thought to be like a derived feature of squamates, so like it evolved in squamates. And then the Gekkota, you can have bifurcated tongues. I've seen geckos with like orange tongues, and I think they can have like blue tongues as well as like pinkish tongues, which is interesting. So geckos can have two egg teeth, like Dibamidae, and some can have calcareous eggs, although this has been described as derived. Unidentata, so they can have bifurcated tongue except in chameleons, and they can have one egg tooth. Okay, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Got any questions, you can let me know. Thanks. Bye.